put the video on silent real quick. As soon as it pops up, it always.
I'm showing us streaming now.
Oh, you see me?
Yeah. What's up? Welcome to another installment of What's That?
It's the Chats.
And today we got something to chat about, sister, because there is a video going around from a recent episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians of none other than Kim Kardashian and Kourtney Kardashian going to blows, so much so that there was blood. So I don't know about you. I don't watch the Kardashians very often in these days, but we are on quarantine. And I said, let me see what this clip is everyone is talking about. Have you seen it?
I saw the clip. I saw the fight, the whole thing. I didn't see the whole thing. I don't watch the Kardashians as much as I used to back in the day.
Right.
But I definitely, I like to keep up with them. And I definitely saw this clip.
But, okay, well, I think we should take a quick peek at it, or at least try to. So let's see if we can make that happen. All right, can you see me?
Yeah, I see you.
All right.
I see your screen.
Let's do it. Let's try to do it again. Okay, sister, so while we're figuring this out, because I don't know about you, but technology is always so funny and Zoom always slows all of my stuff down. But if we can't watch the clip, we can certainly talk about it. So,
Cece,
yeah.
I think we have someone in the waiting room.
Okay, let's grab them.
Check that out.
Let him in.
Oh, I have to. My bad.
Yep, you're the Sharice is hosting today. She's like, I have no idea. This is technology, but I love that we can hop online and have a chat and have our sisters come on in.
It was Rochelle. Shelly. So I guess I'm gonna have to tell her to come back in. So sorry, YouTube. We're figuring this out.
We so are. Worry not. Of course, now my video is playing as soon as I shared my screen, but that's totally cool. No worries. We're going to talk about it anyways. So we are trying to get our other sister to be able to hop on, but worry not. There we are. We are live on YouTube. Okay, so we're going to skip the video because, oh my gosh, my screen froze. Unless are you able to do it?
Yeah, you want me to share it?
Yeah, go ahead and you share on your end.
Okay. Can you tell Shelly to get back on?
I sure will.
Please. Okay. Let me see. We want to share this video. Do you have a specific thing you want to send it to me? The URL?
The link? Sure.
Yeah.
All right, in the chat.
Sorry, I didn't realize that I had to accept her.
Yeah, I don't have the option to. If you want to go ahead and make me a co-host right now, I should be able to control that aspect.
Okay, cool.
Who loves technical difficulties? I do. Working through it.
Cool. And
awesome.
Did you tell her?
I did.
Yeah, tell her. My bad. So did you send me the URL in the chat? Yes,
it's in the chat. Yeah.
I feel like we should like let our watchers come on.
We totally should. And I think if that's something that somebody wants to do, heck yeah, we will let you join us. This is so fun.
Seriously, like, you know, I don't know. I think it would be really cool. All right. So we have the video. We know if and when you can see this. Oh, y'all don't get to it yet. They trying to get to it. So can you see my screen?
I've got your screen.
Oh, that's so crazy. It says it's unavailable in our country for some reason.
In America? Stop it. So that's something that I obviously can see because of where I am at. Okay, let's just move on. Okay, so this particular episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians is trending like crazy because Kim and Kourtney got into a huge fight. And so the video that I was trying to share, that we were trying to show you, actually had the caption is what I thought was really interesting because they said Kim and Kourtney fight over Kourtney's work ethic, which I thought was like super intense, but a really good way of summarizing what it was that was going down. So I'm going to explain the clip since we don't have it available. And here's what happened. Essentially, Kim and Kourtney and Khloe and Kendall were all hanging out at Khloe's house. And Kim was talking to Kendall about the fact that Kylie wasn't able to make an appearance. And so she kind of says, look, if I'm on my deathbed, I show up, but you're lazy. Those are not her words, but this is a summation. She basically says, hey, you, Kendall, Kylie, and Kourtney, kind of lazy. Me and Khloe, we show up and we do what we got to do. And this had Kourtney flying off the handle. She was like, if you don't stop right now, we are 100% gonna fight. And they did. So what did I leave out? What did I miss, Sharice?
You missed that they threw it down, girl. Ooh, I was like, okay, but we ain't get to. Are we getting to that? Because let me just
get to it. Say what you got to say, girl.
All I'm saying is like they were fighting like they really hated each other. Like they were literally like, you know, you can tell when someone has had that feeling or that energy for a while, and it was almost like they both really just needed to let that happen.
Yeah that was actually kind of my first question for you guys, which was, you know, what do you think about them actually coming to blows as sisters, like who are adults, right? These aren't like kids fighting. These are like 40s, 30 or late 30s, right? Women fighting to the point that there was scratching and there was blood involved and it was a hot mess. Rochelle, what's your thought on that?
My thought is sometimes you just get frustrated and you need to let out. That's my thought.
Did you watch the clip? Did you see the clip, Rochelle?
I did. I watched it, and to be honest, I felt like Kourtney a lot of times. So I mean, sometimes it just happens. But with that family, you really don't know if they're doing it for show or if it's for real. So really,
yeah. What do you mean when you say that you felt like you were Kourtney in that situation?
I mean, I've had times just today. I felt like that. Like, F it all, I'm done. That's how I felt.
Okay, so that clarified because I didn't know what element of that you meant. I totally know what you mean. I don't know about you, Sharice, but I've certainly been there too. And I'm like, dude, I'm done. It's a wrap. And so I do think that is sort of an interesting part of the conversation. Here you have someone who is completely and totally fed up so much that she kind of took it there. Do you feel like in a sister relationship violence of that sort is okay. What are your thoughts?
Hold on, before you go there, I just want to
Okay, go
say
ahead.
about my thought about like how I felt about this. I felt like this was probably one of the realest moments that the Kardashians have ever had on their show. And I kind of appreciated it. I'm just saying, like, because like they all like lived, well, not live together, but they almost like together. They're always in each other's face. They're always there. They always have cameras in their face. That's a lot of energy, a lot of pressure on people, you know? And I just thought that that was like such a real, like, it didn't feel scripted in that moment. And that was really nice, actually, to see their humanity.
I like that this point that you made about this idea of them being sort of on all the time, right? Being on camera all the time, which I think is what the fight was about, right? Kourtney's like, dude, I have put my life out there for the world to see for so long, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And not only am I sick of that, I'm sick of you telling me that I'm not good enough, and the way that I show up in this family and in this business is not enough. And so like you, I kind of feel the same way, like, wow, like that was an explosion, but it came from a real place, or at least it felt like it did.
And the thing about Kourtney is that she doesn't put on, like, she doesn't present herself the same way that Kim does or Khloe does. And she's not supposed to, because she's a whole different person. But she does, you can tell just by when she's like on, like, I was watching them on, I think it was on The View. No, not The View, girl. On The Real. No shade, but I think it was The Real that they were on, and they were playing a game. And you know, Kourtney was participating, but she was just participating in her own way. But you know, she had showed up, she was there, she was very present and in the moment, and she played and had fun. But you know, it wasn't in Kim's like, you know, I'm a seductress way, and it wasn't in Khloe's like, you know, girl kind of way. It was in her own way. And I think that sometimes like the fact that she's different in that aspect, you know, I think she struggles with that a little bit, and maybe that they treat her differently because of that. But she always shows up. She doesn't to me show up halfway, as they often make her seem.
So this is interesting, this idea about, here you are, I'm a human and I show up in this world and in this space the way that I do. And like, I can't show up the way Rochelle does. I can't show up the way Sharice does, because we are all humans on our own journey, having our own experience. And sometimes people have expectations of us that are outside of who we are or who we want to be or how we want to present ourselves. Have you ever found yourself in that type of a situation, Shelly?
I cannot answer that right now.
Honestly. Okay.
I'm not even in that headspace right now.
Okay, no worries. Sharice, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that all the time, because I'm an actor, and I've told y'all about that before. It's like people always expect you to be a certain way, and it's like, nah, guess what? I'm still human. And then also because it's hard to see on video because my teeth so big, so like, you know, it always look like I'm smiling. For real. But like in real life, a lot of times, like, I'm not, like, if my mouth isn't open, I'm not talking, and I'm just like, people are like, what's wrong with you? You mad? I'm not showing up the way that people feel that I should show up. And that can be really stressful to me, because I'm like, I'm here, I'm not mad, I'm regular. you know, so I deal with that often. It's a constant struggle for me.
I actually love that you bring this up, because this was I don't want to call it a fight. We certainly didn't come to blows about this, but just a few weeks ago, this was the topic of conversation that we had, because you were saying that was something that you struggled with and you deal with often. And I was sharing my point of view on the subject, and I said, you know, sometimes people don't think that you're like the happiest person in the most, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
that ain't what you said.
Correct me,
that ain't what she said, but okay.
Okay, I whatever it was, I don't remember the exact details. Obviously, we're over it at this point, but I think it's a good point, because I do think that this is a reason why a lot of people run into arguments and have conflict with people, because people have expectations of you that don't necessarily align with with you and how you feel, right? Like, I think that that is a normal, relatable experience that a lot of people have had.
Right. And your perception. And the thing is like, you brought this up to me, is like that these people's perception is their reality. So whatever they're seeing on the outside is what they're going to believe, whether or not you tell them. Like, the thing is about me is I'm very transparent, and I really, like, my face might tell you a different story, but my words is what I mean. Like, I say what I mean. And so if I say like I'm not upset, or if I say I am upset, though, that's what I am, you know. And a lot of times too, like I'll tell people like, oh, you know, I'm not happy about something, and they'll laugh. They'll straight laugh at me. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'm being really serious. Like, I'm not happy about it. You know, so like it's a constant struggle for me. And if that's what Kourtney was going through, which I feel maybe not on the same level, but something like that, if that's what she was going through, I feel her, I would have, well, maybe not beat up, not like that.
But a conversation needs to be had, right? I think even I am in a position where I can relate to that on some levels, because for me, it's not, you know, it's not necessarily people thinking that I'm aggressive or whatever that thing is. For me, I'm very introverted, right? And so I don't want to go and be around people all the time. Like, I'm happy to be spending time by myself. And sometimes people think that means that I don't like them, or, you know, like I'm not showing up the way that they'd like to in relationships. And the reality is like, no, I'm just an incredibly introverted person. And the way that I get energized, the way that I take care of myself is being by myself. And there's judgment that comes with that. Of course, now with the quarantine, everybody is kind of joking like, oh, the introverts have it so easy. It's like, it must be like a miracle moment for you. And that even that is like a judgment that I didn't ask for in this moment.
Can I just say, I mean, that's a whole different topic, but let me just say, I was just talking this morning about this, about how like people are saying like the introverts have it all good right now. But let me tell you, no, this is not true, because people keep on calling. Y'all want to talk? Y'all got time to talk now? Like, the only people I want to talk to is like my sisters, my man, and that's it. Like, why you calling me? We don't got small talk. No, thank you.
And I mean, yes, we're kind of way off on the quarantine thing now. For me, like, yes, like people have a lot more time and all of that. But even as somebody who is very introverted, I still like outside. I still like to go to the park and have solo missions, right? I still like to like, hang out and do things, you know? So it's a different kind of struggle. And I think that that is a huge part of what this fight between the Kardashians was people having their own experience and the people external to them not understanding what was going on. And rather than using words, they use their fists in this situation. So I'm going to ask the question again. As grown-ups, as whole adult women, is it okay to get into a physical altercation with your sisters or your close friends even?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I just don't think that they needed to. I don't know what problem, like what was solved by that. So, I mean, maybe they got out some frustration in that moment, but like now you still have to have a conversation. Now you have to have an even deeper conversation, because now you drew blood, you know?
Yeah.
Or like how do you go back to being like good after that without, you can't just not have a conversation. You can't ignore that, you know? So, I mean, I don't think they needed to hit each other like that, because that was kind of deep.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes it just gets to that point, you're in the moment and it just happens. Not that you want it to happen, but it happens. I'm not saying that it's right. It's not right. You never should put your hands on anybody. When you're trying to tell somebody over and over and over and they're not listening, you have to figure out another way to get them to learn to listen. And if they're not listening to your words, what else can you do? I mean, I feel like Kourtney has been telling them for years that that's not what she needs a break, and they keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and they're not listening to her. So she got to her breaking point and she just snaps. I mean, again, I don't agree with putting your hands on anybody. As grown adults, you should be able to talk it out. But to me, it's like she's been talking and nobody's been listening. So she needs to go somewhere else and figure out a way for them to listen to her, in my opinion, from what I saw.
I appreciate your honesty, right? Because I think that what you're describing is the reality of what happened in the situation. It wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna meet you at 3 p.m. We're gonna square up, we're gonna finally handle this. It was a moment where it was a snap, right? It was a break where she had hit a certain level and then she, crossed that line into physical violence. So I do think that is a valid point, right? Like this was not like a, hey girl, let's go and box it out, like I'll meet you at 3 p.m. in the courtyard. This was a completely different situation. You're not gonna find me condoning violence, right? That doesn't make sense, but I do see how it happened. As an outsider watching the situation, there was a level of frustration that you could physically see that was palpable in that moment. And you could see that as she was trying to basically tell Kim to shut the crap up, right? Like when she was trying to get her to stop speaking the narrative that is so painful to her, it was sort of like a funny moment and nobody was taking her serious in that moment. And I think that was the break for her. That was the snap for her. But considering this, right? Because the reality is that whether you condone the violence or you don't, whatever side of that you fall on, it's happened. How do you guys see people coming back from something like this? Not necessarily Kim or Kourtney, but just in regular relationships, in your relationships with your friends, in your relationship with your sisters. If it came to blows, how could you repair something like that? Is it reparable?
I think for me, if the two parties love each other enough, then yes, it could be repaired. But if it's a friend or an associate and I really just don't care about them like that, and I can, move on, I'll just move on. But like family, close people, I believe that it is repairable. Like you can repair it. You just have to work at it and make sure that each individual understands why it happens and what you can do in the future to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But I do believe that it depends on how much you really value that friendship or relationship in order for it to be repaired.
Yeah. What you got?
I think, of course, well, yeah, I agree with what Rochelle said. Like, I think she kind of hit it on the head. Like, you have to both agree, like, okay, like, let's figure this out. But also, like, it's not for everybody. It can't be fixed for everybody. Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's just conversations. Like, it's a not a physical argument, but like just a conversation that, like, hey, we're in different spaces now. We don't our energies don't match anymore. So like, let's just move on. So I think it depends on, like, obviously who it is. Yeah, like, I mean, also, I was just gonna say on that other point that we were talking about, we have a saying in theater, well, particularly in musical theaters, is that when you have no more words, you sing it out. And that's, I mean, like, seriously, like in the music industry, musicals industry, that's what happens. Like, if you ever go watch a play that's a musical, you see them talking and talking, and then they just get so to the point that they have to just sing. And they just, like, because they can't think of the words anymore. There's no more words to say. And I think that that's exactly what Rochelle was talking about, was that, like, you get to the point where you're like, I don't know what else to tell you, so I might just need to strangle you. But don't kill nobody, please.
Please. I mean, there are TV shows about that. I think for me, this is like a really hard idea, right? Because I would hope that no one that's really close to me would have, sorry, I think that got a little reverberation there. No one that's close to me, that we would have this sort of situation where we have a violent confrontation. Because I have, as a social worker, as somebody who's worked with people who've had to deal with violence in their homes and in their relationships and all these kinds of things, I have this idea that it is very hard to go back across the line. Once that line has been crossed, it's really hard to not have that as an option that you can pull at a later date. And so for me, I think, I mean, there's a certain level of trust that would have to be built up over such a long period of time for me to feel safe in that space, knowing that this is something that you've been capable of in the past. And how do I know the next time we disagree or some future time when we disagree that it won't happen again, you know? And that's something that for me, as I was watching it, I mean, and we're gonna be honest, right? They've come to blows before on their show. I've seen, I mean, not like this, not where it was like nails and blood and all these things, but they picked up things and hit each other with it. I mean, I remember that. And if that's a normal part of your relationships, and I say normal like this, right? Then I mean, it might be a part of your expectations anyways. But for me, as somebody who doesn't have violent relationships, that would be very, very jarring for me. Like I don't know that that's something that I would be able to repair, even with somebody that I love so much. I think we could have phone calls, we could hop on a Zoom, but to be in that physical space with somebody who was capable of attacking me in that moment, like that, I mean, I just kept thinking about like, what would I do in this situation? Like, how do you get this relationship back? These are not just friends, these are not just associates, these are your sisters, this is your blood, these are people that you care about. But how do you fix that? I don't know. For me, I don't know that I could. I don't know if I could get over it.
I think you bring up a really valid point, but for some reason, I feel that because they are sisters and because they have other siblings and they have their parents, well, kind of, they have their parents, that they're going to find a way to fix it and resolve the issues. And you know, they'll probably have like family dinner and go to counseling and all those things that the people who are more privileged can do. I think that it's harder in a regular person's household to fix those kinds of things, because a lot of times what happens is that argument happens, that fight happens, whatever it is, and then nobody ever brings it back up, nobody talks about it, pretend like it doesn't exist, and then people just harbor those feelings, you know what I mean? And then it might come out later down the line when you're like a freaking granny or something, and like, you know. So I think that they have a little bit more a lot more privilege than a lot of people. And so, and also because it was aired and like people are talking about it and everything, like they are going to have to deal with it. You know, they're gonna get asked about it if they haven't already.
I agree with you, Sharice. And I do believe in order for them, that they have to want to fix the relationship, both sides, and both sides have to be accountable for what they did. I mean, you have to be accountable for not listening to my words, and you also have to be, and then Kourtney would have to be accountable for her actions and not being communicating her feelings. Like everybody has to be accountable for for what happened. But I do agree with you, Sharice. But in that situation, they're gonna fix it. They're gonna go back. I mean, it may not be the same lovey-dovey relationship right away, but they're gonna go back to their relationship. I mean, again, it just depends on if you really want to fix the relationship. And if it's really, really important to you.
And the other thing about that is that we're assuming that their relationship is totally ruined or something. Like, you know, sometimes you fight and then you needed to get that out and now, you know, it's over. So like, who knows? Maybe they're best friends, really.
And then it's totally different. Like if it's domestic abuse, of course, that's something I would not want to repair.
Yes.
Like a friendship that I know that that's not how you really are. Like you've never done this before to this level, then I can trust you. I can trust you enough, or I can build on that trust enough for us to build on that relationship. But like, there are different red flags that in any relationship that you would see that would be able to like help you to determine if this is a relationship that's worth even trying to fix after such a situation. So, you know, you can't just, for me, it's like they had this huge fallout, they had this huge blowout, but I believe that their relationship, they want a relationship and they want to build a relationship. So I really feel like in that situation, it'll be resolved. And again, it just depends on how much you care for that person, how much you truly want to have that relationship.
Yeah, I just want to add family violence can happen between a partner and between people in your family. So family violence
No,
can be between the
I
siblings.
understand that. No, I
Not for
get
you,
that.
for the audience, not for you, for the audience, right? Because not everybody understands that, but family violence can look a number of different ways. And I do think, I mean, I don't know the Kardashians personally. I don't know what's going on in their real relationships, but I think Rochelle brings up a really good point in that you have to want to fix it. But I think that when you're thinking about relationships, and whether this is your family or this is outside of your family, you have to really take a look at the quality of that relationship and whether there are levels of toxicity in that relationship. Because, you know, if I were Kourtney, and I'm not, but if I were Kourtney, I don't know that those are relationships that I would want to hold on to. And not in a I don't love my sisters way. I would still love my sisters, but I don't know how much time I would want to invest in being and spending time with them if I felt like every time we came together, I was being minimized and I was made to feel less than, and I was made to feel like I wasn't showing up the right way. I think if you have those types of relationships where people are constantly telling you that there's something wrong with you, that sometimes you have to evaluate those relationships and say, you know what? I don't need to spend as much time with these people in my lives. I don't need to spend as much time with, you know, so and so, even though I love you. I love you. I want, you know, if I see you at a family gathering, great. We get together a couple of times, you're wonderful, but it might make more sense for you on a psychological level, on an emotional level, on a personal level, to have a real assessment of yourself and how you feel about that relationship. And it might be that, you know, it might not be as worthwhile to continue to be in a relationship where you're made to feel that way. And that's where I kind of would fall. Like, I don't know that I want to have people, even people I love, like I love you guys to heaven. Like, I love you guys so much. But if every time we got together, you made me feel like I was a piece of crap, we're not going to get together. You know, like at some point you have to make those decisions in your relationships, and those are not easy decisions to make.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think that and you probably could talk about it more intelligently than me because, you know, given your background, Chantel, CC. But the thing is like they were kind of abusing her mentally and emotionally, right? And like mental and emotional abuse sometimes very often leads to other levels of abuse, including physical abuse. And I think that this is something that we just happen to see like on television in their life, but this happens a lot in other people's lives. And I thought that you brought up a really good point about like once you cross that line, it's really hard to go back. And particularly like I've had experiences or relationships where, you know, people will call you a name and now you can never go back from you called me that name, and now they're going to continue to call you that name or say.
Looks like we might have lost her, but I definitely see the train of thought that she was on there, right? Like,
And that's where I was saying, if they want to fix their relationship, they will both have to be accountable for their actions and work towards that. If it's a relationship worth saving.
that's right. Totally agree. Totally agree. At some point, you have to make that determination. Is that a relationship that is actually worth salvaging? I think that's a really great point, Rochelle. I think Trisha's bringing up a really good point about this whole, you know, if it's already in the toolkit, and what she's saying is also that it might start off as a word, but it escalates. The language can escalate. It can escalate into physical violence. And then you also have other types of abuse, right? Like, and this is really weird to talk about the Kardashians in this context, and I'm certainly not saying this is their experience, but when you have people who are incredibly wealthy and they have a shared brand, and you now have to take a look at the financial ramifications of this. What happens if I am ostracized? I have to keep showing up on camera because this is how I feed my family. That's a form of financial abuse. I mean, I'm not saying that that's what's happening to them, but that's another layer that people aren't thinking about, like what happens financially for people in these sorts of situations. So I think that you guys bring up some really valid points, some really good points when it comes to not only just, you know, when sisters fight, but all of the levels. Like, this is such a nuanced conversation. I think a lot of people were approaching it in kind of like a look, the Kardashians are at it again. But I do think that it has real it shows real situations that are happening in the lives of tons and tons of people. And I mean, look at where we are right now. So many of us are quarantined in our homes, and hopefully you're in a home with somebody who you love and that you have, you know, supportive relationships in, and there aren't violent bouts and episodes, but you just simply don't know what's going on in people's lives. So I think this actually turned out into an even better conversation that I had planned today for today's Sister Chat. So I just want us to leave. Is there any advice or tip that you would want to give to someone who feels like they're in a relationship that could use some work? There's some conflict and they want to improve it. What advice would you give to them?
Can you guys see me again? Sorry.
We can, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I was trying to figure out some advice to give some people, but I really need some advice. Because I told you guys I got a friend that I've been friends with for years, like literally like 10 years. And and then suddenly like it's like we can't even have a conversation anymore. And so I'm like, can this be fixed? Like, I don't know. Like, you know, I wanted to like invite her to my virtual birthday party. And I'm like, I don't know if I should. Like, this is weird.
Am I invited to your virtual birthday party?
Yes, girl.
This is the first I'm hearing about it. Your birthday in a couple of days. I'm just making sure I'm invited.
I know I didn't send out the invitations yet. I was like so kind of lazy. It's bad, but I'm gonna send it.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to disrupt your train of thought.
No, it's okay. So yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, you know, I don't know. The best piece of advice that honestly I could give is like work on you first, figure out what's going on with you, and then if you can, if you feel like you're in a good space, which is what I'm trying to let her do and myself do, you know, if you feel like you're in a good space that no matter what the outcome is, your peace won't be rattled, then you can, you know, try to fix the situation. But don't try to fix it just because it needs to be fixed or because, you know, you spent so much time being friends with this person or whatever. Like, you know, like fix you first.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with Sharice. I'm gonna just piggyback on what Sharice is saying and say, yeah, fix yourself first. Work on yourself. You can't work on anybody else you can't work on anybody else, period. They have to work on themselves. So in that case, I would say find a good counselor you can talk to. I'm a Christian, so I would, you know, go to a Christian counselor or whoever who would give me the counseling that I needed. And then I would suggest it to the other person, hey, you might want to go to counseling too. And then maybe you can go to counseling together to fix it. But I would just say find a counselor and pray, but find a counselor. Like, yes, we pray, but it's okay to have a counselor as well.
I love that. I think that's some really great advice. And I agree with both of you, right? Like, you're never going to hear me say, don't go get a counselor. I think that's important. I think Rochelle actually gave a really great piece of advice in this, and that is knowing whether this is something that you actually want to fix. I think conflict is normal. In fact, conflict is normal, right? If you have a relationship and there is no conflict, the relationship is probably not incredibly deep, right? That is normal. But when we start talking about arguments and we start talking about them escalating to uncomfortable places, like people using language or people getting physically violent or any of these things, or just you're in a space where it doesn't feel like it's a healthy relationship, then you got to decide. You've got to do some assessment, and you really have to decide, is this something that I want to fix? And it's okay if you don't, right? So like, you have permission to go out there and say, you know what, this is not a relationship that I want to move forward with, and chunk those deuces, like Sharice just said. So that is it for today's installment of What's That?
Sister Chat.
We are so grateful for you. Thank you so much for hopping on and joining us today. Now, be sure that you join the sisterhood. Click that subscribe button and like this video if you enjoyed some of our topics today. And let us know down in the comments, sound off and let us know what you think about this whole fight and how you can maintain relationships after things go awry. That's what we got for you today. Until next time, ciao.
Peace.
Bye.